guys, what's up everyone, and welcome back to my educational series of videos. This is me, Muna Abu Fayyad, and this is our 5th session of explaining Photoshop. In the previous videos, I've explained how to render a section, how to render elevations, how to make a poster. I even explained in the first video the basics of Photoshop. If you haven't watched these videos, please go back and watch them, as they will be so useful for today's session. Because in today's session, I'll be explaining how to render a plan fully on Photoshop and in less than 15 minutes. For that, let's jump into screen recording. Let me open my PC and show you how to do it.
Here I have my Photoshop opened, and we click on Create New. We select our paper size. Let's select A3. Let's make the resolution 150. It's enough. You can keep it 300, but I don't want to make the file too heavy. Okay, let's work on landscape and create. Okay, so this is our working space. Now I have an AutoCAD right here that has the plan that I'm going to render. Here, I will export this plan to Photoshop. For that, I'll need to export it in 3 steps. I'll have 3 PDFs. One for the walls themselves, one for the furniture, and one for the text. For that, first, I'm gonna hide, or I'm gonna just hide or freeze the furniture, then the text. Furniture and text. Okay, now I'm gonna export these walls. I'm gonna use A4 for that. It's not a big plan. Let's make it 1 to 1.5. Okay, this is good. Okay, I'll just click on OK. Continue. I'll save it. I'll call it DWG. Wall. I'll call it walls. Okay, now I'm gonna click on all layers, and I'm gonna isolate the text and Control P, previous plot, and let's see. Okay, I'm gonna call it text. Text. Okay, and then again, I'm gonna show everything. I'm gonna uniso, and now I'll get everything except the walls and text. So now I'm gonna take just the furniture. For that, if your furniture are on the same layer, you can just isolate it. But for me, I think they are not all on the same layer as I saw. Let's try. Yeah, they are not all on the same layer. So for that, I'm just gonna hide everything else. The text now is already hidden. Now I'm gonna hide the layer of the walls. It's my current layer, so I'm gonna select another layer to hide it. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same, Control P, and again continue to plot single sheet. I'm gonna select our previous plot same, and we click on OK, OK, and we call it furniture. And that's it. Now let's close this, and then we go back to our Photoshop. Now we can start dragging let's drag the 3 PDFs and select crop box. You click OK, done, and then crop box, OK, done, OK, and done. And now we have the 3 PDFs above each other. They are on the same place. I just dragged them from my folder, and I have chosen a crop box to give me just the exported area that I exported from my DWG file, and then I clicked on OK. Okay, so now here you can see that I have my 3 layers here. We have the wall, furniture, and text. Okay, now we can start coloring. I'm gonna go to my wall layer, and I'm gonna go to my quick selection tool or magic wand, and then I'm gonna zoom in and start selecting my walls. All right, you select the walls. Like that. Very easy. I'm gonna select my interior walls as well. All right. Now all the walls are selected, and I'm gonna go ahead and create a new layer. Okay. I'm gonna call this layer solid walls, and then I'm gonna hit my Shift plus F5. Shift plus F5 on my keyboard, and I'm gonna go to color. I'm gonna fill it with black. Okay, and then okay. And then I'm gonna deselect by pressing on Ctrl D. And now I have my solid walls. Okay, after that, I'm gonna go ahead and start coloring the floors. For that, I'm gonna just go to my wall layer and select first the bathroom, like that. All right, and then I'm gonna zoom in to show you. I'm gonna select the space which is under the door, like this, and I'm gonna create a new layer called bathroom tiles, and I'm gonna hit again my Shift F5 to fill it with white color, and then I would like to, let's keep it under the walls, and then I would like to give it a pattern. For that, I have prepared few images, as I always do. I'm gonna use this one for my bathroom. So for that, I'm gonna go right click on the image that I want to create a pattern from, open with Photoshop, and then you go to edit, define pattern. You can rename it. I'm gonna rename it bathroom tiles. Hit OK, and then you go back to your working space, and then you double click on the layer that you created for the bathroom tiles, and you go to pattern overlay, and then you select the pattern that we just made, and then you start changing the scale. I think 20 is enough. I think so. Okay, and then I will deselect by Control D. And then as you notice, you can see that I can see the floor through my fixtures. I'm gonna fix this later. Now let's go ahead and change the color of the flooring of the living and bedroom. For that, I'm gonna go and do the same. I'm gonna go to my wall layer and I'm gonna use this magic wand. I'm gonna select this space and this space first. After I select the spaces, I'm gonna create a new layer. I'm gonna call it living tiles. I'm gonna drag it under the walls. Then I'm gonna go to the folder and then get the pattern that I have downloaded from Google, open with Photoshop, and then you go to edit, you go to define pattern, you call it bedroom tiles, and then you go back again to your main file and okay, and then you hit F5 and then you color it white and you go to pattern overlay and you choose this pattern. You change the scale. I think this is enough. And if you notice here under the door, it's not colored. So for that, you can use this selection tool and then you make sure that you're using the add to selection style, and then you will just select this portion like this and it will add to selection. And again, you can use your Shift F5 and use the white color. So to summarize what we did, I selected the space that I wanted to add a pattern to, and then I created a layer. I filled the layer with the white color. Then I defined the pattern, and then I went back to the original file and I used the pattern. Okay, so now, as you notice that our flooring is covering the furniture. For that, I'm gonna go ahead and use my magic wand tool and select outside, and then I'm gonna right click, select inverse, and then I'm gonna select my bathroom tiles, delete. I'm gonna select my living tiles, delete, and look at this. We've cleared out the spaces, except for some spaces like this one. For this area, I'm gonna use the traditional and old way, which is the square selection or the rectangle selection tool. I'm gonna clear out this, and my furnitures now are cleaned out. Now let's go back to our furniture layer and select again, because I would like to give them some depth. All right, I'm gonna go again and select my magic wand tool and select outside, and then right click, select inverse. Select inverse, and then I'm gonna create a new layer and then call it filled furniture, and I'm gonna Shift F5 and give it white color. Okay, I'm gonna put it under my actual furniture CAD layer, and I'm gonna double click. I'm gonna give it some drop shadow. And if you notice, I think this is too heavy, so I'm gonna reduce the opacity. I'm gonna change the spread size. You just keep playing with these until you get what you like. And then you can change the angle. And this is, I think, is good. And then you click OK. I just noticed that the kitchen counters are not cleaned out. So I'm just gonna clean them out. I'm gonna select the living tiles. All right. Now I would like to give them a kind of color, maybe some gray color. Let's create a new layer and call it kitchen top. And then let's select kind of gray color and fill this color that we've just created. Okay, now we can go to our furniture layer, and duplicate it, and then double click on the duplicated layer, and I'm gonna try to give it some drop shadow. Yeah. And this is nice. Oh no. Spread size. You play with the size until you get what you like. You can even play with the color of the shadow. And then you can add anything you like to this. For now, I will add something to the outside. Before that, I feel like I need to darken the color of my outer walls. For that, I'm gonna go to my walls layer over here and then select it and then Ctrl J it, which means duplicating it for a couple of times or more. And then I'm gonna select all my duplicated layers by pressing on Shift and selecting these layers. And then I'm gonna merge these layers to get only one layer of these. So that made my layers darker. That made my wall layer darker. Okay, now I feel like I need to add something outside this plan. For that, I'm gonna go ahead and select my main walls color layer, and I'm gonna just put a pattern beneath it. Okay, let me show you what I have downloaded for this. I have downloaded this image, which I'm gonna create a pattern from it right now. You go to edit, you go to define pattern, and you call it pavement or whatever you like. And then you go back to your original working space. Okay, so to add this pattern that we just defined, we go to our wall layer and we use our magic wand and we select outside. We select inside this small square. Actually, you can remove this outline from your plan from the beginning. All right, and then you hit your Shift F5, but before that, you create a new layer and you call it pavement. All right, select your pavement and then Shift F5 and then choose white color. Okay, and then bring this layer down under your layers. Okay, I think it's a good place here. Okay, then deselect, Control D, and then double click and go to pattern overlay and choose the pavement that you just made. You can change the scale. All right, I think this is enough. And then I don't want to keep it like this, so I'm gonna go ahead and choose it and then reduce the opacity because it looks so intense. I even want to reduce the opacity for this flooring. Okay. Now I would like to add a car here. So I'm gonna go to my folder, open with Photoshop. It's not PNG, so I'm gonna clean it out. Select here and delete. Unlock the layer, delete, and then Control D, and then drag it to my actual working space. Control T for rotation and editing. And I'll just keep it right here. I'll give it some realistic feeling by reducing the opacity, by double clicking here and give it some drop shadow. Okay, I'm gonna go to my walls layer. Okay, and I'm gonna remove this outline that we got from AutoCAD because it's so confusing. It's annoying me. I'm gonna Control D. All right. Now I'm gonna put some trees. We can create some pathway here. For that, I'm gonna take this one, open it, Photoshop, and then I'm gonna go to select color range, select the white. Okay, unlock my layer, delete. I'm gonna take this to my working place. And to make this pathway more realistic, I'm going to be adding some shrubs, which I also downloaded here. I'm going to drag it to my working space. It's huge. I'm going to scale it down. Try to put it here. I'm going to play with the proportions of it. Okay, I think we can add a swimming pool. I have downloaded one. We can try. For more functional, I'm going to select everything and move up, and then I'm going to go to this pavement layer and draw a rectangle, and then I'm going to hit my Shift F5 and color it white. Okay, so now I have enough space to pull down my pool, so it will be more functional, because as you know, we cannot put a pool close to the wall. Okay, now we can draw a square here and delete anything from beneath it. I deleted the pavement from beneath this pool. And then we can create a deck. Let's create a deck. And now, after creating this pool and pool deck real quick, I added some furniture for the outdoor areas, such as this dining table, these sun pits, and there's some kind of pergola with some sun beds. And now I would like to go back to my walls layer and create a new layer, call it shadows. And then with my brush tool, I'm going to select a dark color and a brush, some big one, and a brush that has soft round edges. I'm going to go ahead and reduce the opacity, bring this layer down, and start giving some depth to my plant. I'm gonna drop it down. This layer should be right above the pavement, like this. Reduce the opacity. Then with your eraser tool, soft edge again. Reduce the opacity of the eraser till like 30 and start fading the edges of what we've created with the brush. It will give you the illusion that this is the height of our building. It's giving us this shadow. And this is it. You can also put some carpet for your render. You can put whatever you like. You can add more green stuff, more plants. But this was the very general idea. Of course, there are more advanced methods to do it, but for me, I'm gonna give you the basics in this tutorials. Now, let me show you how to export. You go to File, Export, Export As, and you select PNG, and then Export. You save it to your folder. And let's compare it to the AutoCAD. So this is our original AutoCAD and this is our rendered image. Remember guys, this is not the most efficient way, but this is the easiest and fastest way to use Photoshop for plans renders. You can use whatever you like. You can watch another tutorials, but this is the easiest and the fastest way to do it. Keep practicing and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.